Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 58 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we'll look back on the weekend that was in Las Vegas, Nevada. Also look ahead to the end of the West Coast swing this weekend in Phoenix. Plus, we'll have our news and notes segment as well as our Ask David segment coming up at the end of today's show. You may be noticing something different on your screen right now, and that is a little fireside chat conversation that we have for you. As yours truly, I've now made the move to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, officially started my new job this week with Chat Sports. And so with that, going forward, more times than not, David and I will be here in person together. Dominic joining us remotely from New Mexico. But, of course, we do see Dominic from time to time, including this past weekend in Las Vegas. David, good to see you this weekend in Vegas and here in the flesh now, and excited about the foreseeable future with this type of setting here.
Well, Tyler, it's just, man, I'm glad to have you in Dallas, man. It's I'm excited for your new job, and glad to be able to see you more often than so. And now we just got to get Dominic to move to Texas, and we'll all be doing okay. But I think that's going to be hard to do. But man, it's pretty cool. It's cool having you here, man. It's cool to have you here at my house and be able to do the podcast live together. And what do you think, Dominic?
Yeah, no, I'm the odd man out. I think you guys are right. I think maybe a move to the Frisco, Dallas-Fort Worth area could be in the cards. It'd be awesome. No, awesome to do the show with you guys. And yeah, pretty cool to see the little fireplace going. And I have to ask, is the fireplace real or is it a prop?
You want me to touch it and find out?
No.
Hey, I mean, if you want to touch fire, go ahead.
No, it's real, man. It was a little chilly here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area today, and man, I got home from the Texas Motor Speedway earlier. Man, I was cold, so I turned the old fireplace on, and Tyler showed up, and I said, "Hey, man, I need to be by the fireplace because I'm still cold,
There you go. The house warmed your body up, and seeing Tyler in the flesh warmed your heart.
Well, I don't know if that warms my body or not, but it was good to see him.
Indeed. And guys, we had a great weekend in Vegas together. We didn't do a live show out there like we normally would, just with schedules if we all had places to be and such. But we did spend some time together over this past weekend, and that was my first trip out to Vegas, period, let alone the Speedway or the city or anything. And I just absolutely loved it. Still came away with money in my pocket, so that's always a good thing. But yes. David, we'll start with you. The weekend in Vegas, I know that you guys didn't make the race, but nonetheless, still a productive weekend with other stuff going on as well.
Oh, no doubt about it. But, man, golly, Tyler, Dominic, I'd be lying to you guys if I say it was a tough weekend. Our SS Greenlight racing team, Jason Miller, my crew chief, Bobby Dotter, my team owner, and our Ford Mustang. It's been a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a challenge for us, but just in life in general, when you fall on your face, you got to get right back up, and we didn't make Daytona, and that was hard to accept. And then we go to Las Vegas here, and thought we were going to be really good enough. I thought practice was great for us, and we taped up, got on the racetrack to run that one qualifying lap, and I got a little free getting into when I got into turn one. I think I could have arced the corner a little bit more, but I drove it like I always drove it, and I got a little free in the center, and it didn't take much to put me, and when you had to lift out of that gas pedal for a split second, it hurts you, so but man, having a great crew chief, Jason Miller, and just knowing my team's behind me, and we're working hard. There's no excuses. I mean, we got beat. We fell down. We failed, and man, all you can do is just get back up and keep digging. And I'm looking forward to Phoenix here. I've always had great runs at Phoenix. Actually, we didn't make the race at Las Vegas. I've won at Las Vegas before. And I've won at Phoenix before, but anyway, it's been a big challenge. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it hasn't been, but hopefully we're making gains on it. And man, I'll tell you what, we need to be in that race Saturday afternoon.
Yeah,
that Xfinity race. It's killing me, man. I mean, we're going to wake back up the next day, whether we win the race or not make the race. But golly, it's man, it's like somebody stabbed you in the heart and twisted it. But man, having Brett Baer behind me and Ticket Smarter, Stan Ross and Digital LI, got some great partners. And man, I can assure you that we're just working our tails off. And we'll get it, but it was a challenge. But man, what was cool about Las Vegas, guys? Y'all were there. Anytime you go to Las Vegas, I mean, it's just electrifying. The atmosphere. It's Las Vegas, But
sure,
guys, the racing was incredible. The truck race Friday night was unbelievable. I thought the Xfinity race was phenomenal, and then the Cup race Sunday afternoons into the evening time I thought was great. I think the NASCAR racing in all three major series was unbelievable. What's y'all's thoughts about that?
Yeah, I thought it was great. And Alex Bowman ends up getting it done in overtime, and it was in very much Alex Bowman fashion of not leading a lot of laps, but being there at the right time. And with that being said, I want to bring up this quote from Kyle Busch about Alex Bowman. This has caused some controversy a bit, and something about the Stuart Haas, the Joe Gibbs drivers not really liking Alex Bowman a whole lot as of late. Here is the quote from Kyle Busch about Alex Bowman, and I want to get both of you guys' thoughts on this. Kyle Busch, of course, was leading before that last caution. Looked like he was the car to beat there towards the end. And just in case people don't know or need a little refresher, he and the Joe Gibbs guys came in for 4 tires. Bowman and Larson, the Hendrick guys, got 2, and Bowman ended up, pulling away and ended up winning in overtime. Here's what Kyle Busch said about this. The same effing, you guys know the word, guy who backs into every effing win. Was the quote from Kyle Busch, not giving a whole lot of credit. He said that it was BS, but the other word that Alex Bowman won that race. What do you think of those strong words from Kyle Busch?
Well, I think just hearing that, and I hadn't heard that. I've been busy working at the racing school and stuff going on, but just hearing you quote Kyle Busch there. Yeah, I just hear a whole lot of frustrations. I knew he was leading the race with.
Do you think it's personal towards Alex?
No, I don't think it's personal. I just think it's frustrations on Kyle Busch's part. I mean, from what I saw, he was gonna win the race, and
we're both getting Amber Alerts on our phones.
Yeah, Kyle Busch was going to win the race, no doubt about it. Caution comes out with 3 or 4 laps remaining, as I remember right.
Yep.
And Kyle had the race won, and man, when the pit road opened up to come get tires, take 2, take fuel only, stay out. It's just it changed the complexion of the race. Pit stop strategy played a part in it. I mean, that's why these crew chiefs make the big bucks, because I mean, on the Hendricks parts, I don't know where Alex Bowman was running. I know he was running the top 10, and we really didn't hear a whole lot about Kyle Larson. But man, when they pulled off pit road to restart the green, white checkered, man, it was like 2 or 3 of the Hendrick Motorsports cars was up near the front and had a shot at winning the race. So, I can understand Kyle Busch's frustration, and hearing that quote from Kyle Busch, I don't think it's personal. I think it's the frustration coming out, because really he should have won the race, but that's racing. That's any short track across America.
I mean, I could make the same case that Ross Chastain should have won the race over Kyle Busch. I mean, if we're really going to go down that route from where
he led the most laps.
Right. Now, Dominic, you and I were talking after the race about this, that, okay, does Alex Bowman find his way into good situations sometimes? Yes, no denying that. But at the end of the day, he didn't even have the preferred line. Kyle Larson did, and he beats up the best driver in the sport right now head-to-head in a 2-lap shootout. He's got, what is it now, 7 career wins, second most of anybody in the last 2 years, only behind Kyle Larson here. Maybe he doesn't lead a whole lot of laps, but for God's sakes, can we give Alex Bowman some credit here? I mean, now granted, I'll admit I'm a little biased. I like Alex. I've interviewed him more than any other driver not named this guy in the last couple of years. You know, he's been very accessible, been a great guy, but I mean, come on. I mean, he deserves some more credit here, don't you think?
I think so too. I'll be the first to say too, I was very impressed when you back up 6 years ago and he was filling in for the injured Dale Earnhardt Jr. and he won the pole at Phoenix in that penultimate race before the championship race in 16, led something like 200 laps and lost the race on pit road, ended up finishing 8th or whatever it was. But Alex Bowman knows how to find himself in right situations, and 7 wins. I mean, he didn't just luck into him, right? Maybe there were some circumstances that came his way, but sure, Alex Bowman has won 7 times in the Cup Series. That's a lot more than most can ever say in their entire careers, right? There's people that dream about being just in a cup race and let alone winning 7 times. And David, you brought up a great point. You had said that Kyle's comments there sounded just like a lot of frustration and nothing personal. And I would agree with that too. Kind of like when I've talked with Jeff Bodine in the past, and he's talked about the stuff and the beef that there was there with Dale Earnhardt. Yeah, okay, that stuff was on the racetrack. It boiled onto the racetrack, and they, of course, had the meeting in Daytona with NASCAR. But once it left the track, it was leaving the track. It was nothing personal. It was just against Jeff Bodine, the racer, and Dale Earnhardt, the racer, not the person.
No doubt about it, Dominic. And you know, my question to you guys, what's the one lap you want to lead? There's only one important lap in NASCAR. That's the final lap. You know
Right.
what I mean? And you know, I think Alex Bowman, you know, he
Hi, dog.
Alex Bowman, you know, when you run as good as Alex Bowman has in all the Hendrick cars, you put yourself in a situation, if you can run in the top 10 week in and week out, I mean, the wins are going to come, you know what I mean? And maybe Alex Bowman didn't have the fastest car, but when that caution came out at the end, it changed the complexity of the race. I mean, Alex Bowman's crew chief made a great call for only take 2 tires and maybe a small adjustment. And that was all he needed, you know? And when they came off pit road, I mean, the Hendrick cars were in front of Kyle Busch, and it was only a 2-lap dash for the cash, you know? And man, and Alex Bowman won the race. And like Tyler was saying, I mean, he beat Kyle Larson. I mean, I really thought Kyle Larson had the line, because he was squeezing Bowman down on the bottom. I thought Bowman was going to get loose in the center of the corner, but man, Bowman, his car seemed like it was perfect. And man, he drove through the center of that corner, and man, he pulled ahead, and he earned that win. You know, he earned it. I just think, Dominic, like we're saying, and hearing Tyler's to read Kyle Busch's comment, that's purely frustration, because Kyle should have won that race. And you look, you know, if I remember right, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was, you know, in practice on Friday that Kyle Busch, I think he wrecked his primary car.
Did. Started in the back of the field with a car that was a parts car 7 hours before.
Yeah, and you know, it says a lot about the Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, they took a car that wasn't even completed, and like Tyler just said, 7 hours later, they put this thing together, rewrapped it. I mean, and that thing was a rocket ship all day long. To come back and finish the race 4th is to me a tremendous accomplishment, because when they rolled that car off the trailer, it wasn't complete. It was far from being complete. It wasn't ready to race. I think I had heard that it took them maybe 9-10 hours to get the car, you know, through tech, get it ready to race, and to start dead last, and to be as competitive as Kyle Busch was, man, it just says a lot about that Joe Gibbs Racing program, which we know is a powerhouse. And when you say Joe Gibbs Racing, you're talking championship caliber. You know what I mean? So, you know, I can see the frustrations in Kyle Busch hearing his statement, but man, he has nothing to hang his hat on. His team, his organization, Kyle Busch himself, his whole team, his crew chief, unbelievable what they accomplished on Sunday.
Now, let me ask you guys this last thing on Alex Bowman, then we'll kind of move on and talk about some other headlines from the race as well. Dominic, I wonder this: when you look at Kyle Busch's comments. When you look at Denny Hamlin a couple of months ago, calling him a hack, and I love that Alex is turning these into T-shirts and making sales out of it. I mean, that's great marketing. I'm glad that he's kind of figured out his own thing there, that he's profiting from it. But I mean, when we talk about the Hendrick drivers, even though he's got the second most wins in the last 2 years, he seems to be the afterthought of the afterthought. It seems like people talk about William Byron even more than him. Is there a lack of respect for Alex Bowman here? I mean, what is going on? It seems like from not only just drivers, but even fans too, Alex Bowman is kind of an afterthought. Why do you think that is?
Well, and I'll be the first to say, and I think we talked about on the podcast here before, I've said, we've got 300 drivers in Alex Bowman. And Alex Bowman's still great. He still runs in the top 10 a lot. He's still going to put formidable finishes together. But you're right. He is like the forgotten Hendrick Motorsports driver. And that could be a number of factors. I mean, Alex has always run well in the equipment that he's had. He's always gotten the most of it. And I feel, correct me if I'm wrong here, if you guys think this or not, but like the way he went about his career, and he was pretty much done in the Cup Series, and then he got the opportunity at Hendrick. It's like he got that second chance. It kind of gave me shades of Mark Martin, because Mark Martin had a similar start to his career where he ran around not running well in his first few years, left the Cup Series completely, and then he came back and has made a stellar career out, like how he did Roush in the late 80s into the 90s. I feel like that's what Bowman has done in the late 2010s into the early 2020s. He's making the most of these opportunities, and he's getting better and better each year. But yeah, for whatever reason, there's always that fourth driver that seems to get bagged on at Hendrick Motorsports. And I feel like that was Casey Kane a few years prior.
You're right. And Casey, granted, he didn't have the success at Hendrick that he had at Evernham even, but he wasn't bad at Hendrick. What do you think, David? Why do you think that Alex Bowman is being treated the way he is?
Well, I think it might just be the car number he's racing. You look at 7-time
replacing 2 Hall of Famers in his career.
Jimmy Johnson. I mean, Jimmy was just a great guy, great spokesman for our sport. I mean, 7-time champion. There's only 2 other guys that done that,
Right.
And and I think Jimmy was a quiet champion. Jimmy didn't have that very outgoing personality, beat on his chest, and he wasn't a really outspoken guy. He won a ton of races, won all the championships. What he did, I don't think it'd ever be done before, but the way he went about doing it kind of quietly.
Yeah.
And I think Alex Bowman kind of reminds me of that. He's winning races. No matter how he wins the races, he's there when it counts, and that's on the final lap. And with the little strategy from the crew chief and the team, but he drives. He's a great race car driver. Drove the wheels off that car Sunday afternoon to put that 48 car in victory lane. But Alex is not one of those big personality guys, drivers that we hear a lot from. He's kind of, he's his own person.
Sure.
And he's not very loud. He's not in the spotlight a lot. And I don't know. I mean, I really can't answer that question, but man, I do know that he's very capable. He's proven that 7 times already in the Cup Series. And I think we're going to hear a lot about Alex Bowman, and I think we're going to see some championships to years to come. But man, you can't, when you think about Cup racing and who the potential winners are, Alex Bowman has to be a guy we got to start putting up there for a championship run.
I think so. Guys, the race within the race to me is always fascinating, of the manufacturers, right? And, you go back to the Daytona 500. It was the Fords and Austin Cindric that got it done. And the dual races, of course, RFK Racing won those dual races. Yeah, fast forward to Fontana, and that race, Kyle Larson in a Chevrolet. This week at Las Vegas, Alex Bowman in a Chevy, but the Toyotas were the fastest of the field, with Denny Hamlin and his self-inflicted wound of the shifting situation. And Kyle Busch, of course, probably had the best or second best car, and Martin Truex is up there, but bad pit strategy at the end of the race. So with that being said, here we are through 3 races, and so far, David, it looks like the manufacturers are pretty close to the same level at this point with this new car right now. And for the fans, that's a win for everybody.
Man, it's unbelievable. I think we talked about it last week on our podcast. Dominic might even said it. We haven't had this many competitors finish in the top 10 since 1973. Dominic, I think you said
That's
that.
correct. Yes, and that trend continued too, with 25 drivers scoring a top 10 in the first 3 races. You have to go back all the way to the 70s since the last time that happened. And 14 drivers have scored a top 5 finish in the first 3 races. That's insane. Kyle Larson's the only repeat.
And 3 different winners.
Yeah, and 3 different winners, and 3 different pole winners.
I think that's good for the sport. I think the manufacturers are equal. And I think NASCAR has done a great job to try to equal up the different manufacturers. And man, I think it's good. I think it's made the racing great. You know what I mean? The racing has always been great, but I think it's kind of equalized the field some, and sometimes, I mean, like you said at Daytona, it was the Ford teams, Ford's, and it was, I think Roger Penske's teams up there. And then you look at Las Vegas this week, it was Joe Gibbs cars up there. And then the last race at California, it was the Hendrick Motorsports cars, you know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting that it's, it seems like each week there's a powerhouse team that's dominating the race, So I don't know. I think the racing's been great for years. And I think, I'm surprised how good the racing is with this new next gen race car. But guys, man, I don't know about y'all's thoughts are, but in practice in the race, man, there's a lot of spins and a lot of crashes that are happening with this new car. Looks like it's a big challenge. It's very challenging to keep these things underneath the drivers.
Isn't it wild? I was thinking about this, Dominic. When you look at, let's take example, Kyle Busch. Here's a guy that in qualifying spins out, wrecks his race car with no one else around him. But then he gets through 400 miles unscathed and arguably should have won the race. I mean, this car is unpredictable if that happens.
No, absolutely. And gosh, I'm so amazed at the parity in the Cup Series this year. And we're always wanting different drivers to lead. And you always talk about, like, in the 90s, right? The team that was first to the team that was 30th, there wasn't that much separation. I feel like we're back at that level again. And then just I guess, backtracking too on some of these numbers. I mean, the fact that we haven't had a driver lead more than 100 laps this season through the first 3 races of the season is just wild to me. I believe that hasn't happened since the 1970s as well. So that's nuts, guys. This new car, I think, is living up to the parity and to the differences we're seeing with the racing. We're seeing guys up front that we probably wouldn't have seen up front last year. And we're seeing the cream rise to the top. I mean, we're seeing Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, our usual suspects, but other guys in those comers and goers throughout the race.
Yes. Yeah, we certainly are. Speaking of a guy that did lead a lot of laps, let's talk about him next. Ross Chastain in that number 1 ACM Awards car, Dolly Parton for the ride along. Great to have her on board. He might want to have Dolly on the car more often based on the way that he ran on Sunday. Ross had a very good chance to win, but strategy didn't necessarily work out there towards the end. But they showed a lot of speed. That Trackhouse team has done very well through 3 weeks of this season so far. I told you guys last week that I felt like this was going to be a breakout year for Tyler Reddick, and that I think Eric Jones is going to get that 43 car in victory lane. I think that Ross Chastain, guys, is going to deliver Trackhouse its first playoff berth. I think that he's going to find a way to get into victory lane, maybe a couple times, but that's a guy that doing it at Vegas and with the speed that they've shown here, Trackhouse doing a very good job, David. I really like what I've seen from the Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain. And Las Vegas, I know that for them, they're probably thinking, man, we should have won that race, but they got a lot of stuff they can build on from here going forward. They're going to be competitive, I think, all year.
Man, Trackhouse has done a tremendous job. Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, I mean, both those guys, I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them victory lane next week, but Ross was very impressive there at Las Vegas, and Ross has always been impressive. I mean, as a driver, man, that kid, he's been good for a lot of years. And no matter if he's in the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, now the Cup Series, I don't think a win's too far away, Tyler, like you're saying. And I think that's a team we really got to pay attention to be only in a sophomore year as an organization. man, I've been so impressed. It's amazing.
Well, and Dominic, I know that you followed the story of Ross Chastain as close as anybody, and I mean, it felt like last year was his real rookie year, right? I mean, you know, he was in some bad equipment when he had raced, and he was doing so many races. Last year was the first time that he was just full time in Cup and good equipment. And you know, we saw him have some impressive runs towards the end of last year. The way that he's raced, I'm excited for Ross. I think that's a heck of a story what Ross Chastain's been through.
100%, because you go from a promised top tier Xfinity ride to that sponsorship falling through and having to kind of retrack and kind of redo your career. And I remember asking Ross in 2019, he raced the truck race, I believe it was at Iowa. Let's say it was on a Saturday night, and he flew back to Sonoma to run the Cup race in premium motorsports equipment, and he knew he wasn't going to win and didn't run stellar, right? And I asked him point blank, I mean, why'd you do it, right? Go cross country, run this race. He goes, this is all going to come in handy someday. This is all going to be experience that will pay off down the road, and it's paying off, Tyler. All this experience, all the dues that he paid in the equipment that he raced in the Cup Series at all three levels of NASCAR's top touring national series, Ross Chastain is delivering. He looked really good on Sunday, and granted, it's only his first top 10 finish of the year, but I think there's more in store, and I think there's gonna be a lot more laps left from Ross.
Well, David, you can appreciate this. I mean, Ross is a guy that he's never come from money. You know, I mean, he came to Trackhouse and just as Mark said, look, we're not hiring Ross because of money. He doesn't have any. We're hiring him because we believe in the talent that he is as a race car driver, a guy that has literally taken advantage of every opportunity in front of him, and now we're seeing it pay off.
Man, I love it. That's what NASCAR is all about. And I love the story. I love that Justin Marks believed in him and hired him because of his ability, not that he had money or not had money. You know what I mean? So that's what racing's all about. Put the men or women in there that deserve the right. You know what I mean? I mean, you think about racing across America. There's a lot of great young kids out there, whether it be a female or a male, that has lots and lots of talent that may not ever get to race at the level we've been racing at for years in NASCAR, make a living at it. And it's refreshing to know that there's owners out there that will put a person that has the ability and the talent in the race car because they have that talent and that ability. And I think it's refreshing for the sport.
It is. It is. Let's move ahead and move on to this week as we're looking ahead to Phoenix. So, David, we started out with the Super Speedway Daytona, 2.5 miles. Then we go to Auto Club, 2-mile track. Then you move to Vegas, 1.5 miles. Now we're going to drop another half mile down to a mile course in Phoenix here. Totally different from the other 3 previous races we've been at to start out the season.
No doubt about it. I love it. I think, and the Phoenix racetrack is just a great racetrack. It creates great racing, not a lot of banking, a lot of braking, a lot of action. So, man, I'm excited to go back to Phoenix and race because it's a great track. But man, again, you're going to see great racing from the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series, and I'm looking forward to it. But man, that's what's cool about NASCAR. One week you're at a super speedway, and the next week you're on a half mile on a mile racetrack, and to see who's gonna, on the Cup side, who's gonna come out victorious, and just kind of watching what's going to be happening. But it's what an exciting track. The Phoenix International Raceway have put a lot of money in, a lot of changes, and a lot of excitement around that racetrack, has been for years now.
Yeah, Dominic, I feel like normally in this type of race, we would be sitting here talking about, okay, what notes can you take from this and apply to the finale of that November race? But with this being a brand new car and that race being so far away and how much we're going to learn about this car between now and then, I'm not even thinking about that race at all right now. I mean, that seems so distant in the future. I mean, there's these 2 races I don't think are going to be close to each other at all.
I agree with you there, Tyler. And you look at the last 6 NASCAR Cup races at Phoenix, we've had 6 different winners. And even beyond that, you go to the last I think it's 10 out of 11 races we've had a different winner at Phoenix in the last 5 years. So there's so much to consider this weekend. And yeah, I think the championship is furthest from their minds. Now, I'm sure drivers and crew chiefs will be keeping their notebooks and trying things that could potentially work down the road. But right now, it's anybody's guess at who's going to be in that Final Four. I mean, it really is. There's just so much parity with the competition. It's crazy.
Yeah, it seemed like over the winter time they had a test there in Phoenix. I think it was a 2-day test, and I don't remember. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, I think Chase Elliott spun out twice. There was maybe 7 or 8 teams there testing cars, and I remember there were some crashes. There was a lot of cars spinning out, and so. I don't really think that. Obviously, the last race at Phoenix was the championship race in 2021. You have a completely different type of race car, and I'm just curious to see how practice goes and how the race turns out. Because I mean, I think just a select few went down there and tested, and if I remember right, Tyler, I don't think there were a lot of them that had it figured out when they left, so I think it's going to be a learning experience, and it's going to be something new for all the teams. And I think the fans are going to be in for a real treat to see how the race turns out. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think so. Dominic, last thing in Phoenix, and then we'll get to our news and notes. Who's some names to watch? Who comes to mind for you this weekend in Phoenix?
Well, there for a while, it seemed like it was the Kevin Harvick Invitational in Phoenix, where he'd won 4 in a row, and he seemed like the man to beat.
Been a while since Kevin's been to Victory Lane, too.
It has. Last time we went to Victory Lane was 2020. So we're going on almost a year and a half now. I've not seen that 4-car in Victory Lane, but I think Kevin Harvick is somebody to watch for this Sunday. Kyle Larson, another driver that you could look to have a consistent run. Joey Logano, a lot of these guys who have run really well at Phoenix Raceway over the last few years. And those 3 names that I mentioned have been winners very recent at the track. So I'd expect that. And also how they've redone the track, where you actually have the start finish line now on the old backstretch, and how the cars barrel off into turn 1, 3, 4, and sometimes 5 wide. I don't think it's out of question. We could see a big crash this Sunday.
Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah,
but
you never know.
It certainly delivers some great action. And David, you go back to the November race. It was the call on pit road that got Kyle Larson that win. That put him in position to capitalize and win the championship. And then we look back at this past weekend. Call on pit road puts Alex Bowman in good position. He takes home the win. This race, I would guess, is going to come down right to the very last pit stop based on history here.
Man, no doubt. Seems like that's what it's been the last couple of races. Just a caution at the end changes the complexity of the race. Who we think is going to win, then a caution comes out. And one of the things I was just sitting here thinking about was momentum. Who's got the most momentum on their side? Alex Bowman, confident, momentum. I mean, after winning the race there at Las Vegas, I wouldn't be surprised to see all 4 of the Hendrick Motorsports cars up front there at Phoenix. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see Alex Bowman back into Victory Lane and be the first guy in 2022 with back-to-back win, because
that's his home track, right?
That's his home track. You got all that, you got a lot of momentum behind you and the confidence of a racing team. It's just going to be exciting to see, but it wouldn't be surprising to me to see Alex Bowman back into Victory Lane.
Yeah, I certainly could see that. Should be a lot of fun come Sunday. We'll be looking forward to that, the NASCAR Cup race at Phoenix this weekend. Guys, let's go ahead and move on. Time for our news and notes segment, where we find out the latest happenings in the motorsports world. Dominic, where do we start this time?
Sure. We start with March 8th. On Tuesday, March 8th, a new NASCAR Cup Series team has been announced. So Team Stange Racing, I believe I'm saying that right, will be fielding 8 Cup races in 2022 with Tarso Marquez, an F1 driver. They will be taking on the schedule starting on at the Road America race in July, and kind of handpick some races from there. Dignity Gold, a US-based digital security company, will be sponsoring the car. And the team looks to run the number 79 car. It looks like they're going to be a Ford team, a Ford affiliated Mustang team. No word on other information, but guys, I mean, we're seeing some more teams come into the Cup Series, and now we get to see somebody who's got the F1 and IndyCar experience behind the wheel, like we saw with Jacques Villeneuve in the Daytona 500.
Yeah, David, another new team.
Well, it just shows you, it says a lot about our sport of NASCAR. I mean, so many F1 driver. I mean, I say so many of them, but Jacques Villeneuve, now this driver, what's his name?
Carlos Marquez.
Yeah, I mean, another F1 driver. I mean, it says a lot about NASCAR racing worldwide when people want from across the pond want to come over here to America and race in NASCAR. It just shows you how popular our sport is, with Michael Jordan and Pitbull. And, I just think our sport is just growing so much. And those guys really, I think people know around the world what NASCAR is. And this is just another team to come together with another former Formula One driver racing. It just says a lot about our sport.
Yeah. Dominic, this team here coming in, what can you tell us about them and the driver and all that?
Yeah, so the team's going to be fielding a Ford Mustang, and it looks like the team's going to have Roush power under the hood. So, that's going to be a fast vehicle. And it looks like that first race is going to be at Road America, July 3rd. And some other races I had seen sprinkled. I guess they're going to do like the truck race out at Sonoma in June. I believe I'd seen Phoenix was on their schedule. So they have 8 races planned, and kind of dipping their toes in the NASCAR Cup Series and seeing what's going to happen.
I would say, David, if you're a small team, new team, whatever, and if you want to compete right away, your best bet probably is, especially if you're trying to find, an F1 or international driver of some sort, your best bet probably is, let's go find somebody that knows how to run road courses, and we're going to throw them out there and try to use their advantage of how they race on road courses. We saw it last year with AJ Allmendinger taking that Colleague car to victory lane in the Cup side in Indy, and only Colleague's third or fourth start in the Cup level. I mean, that's the way to do it, right?
Man, no doubt. With this next gen car, I mean, the same powerhouse teams are in our same winners. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, the same guys are stepping up to plate win these races that we've seen in the past. But, it's a great time to get into NASCAR Cup racing these days, because I still think, like we've been talking about, the playing field is somewhat equal. And like we just talked about Phoenix this week, there's not a big notebook on how you set up these next gen cars. I mean, there's not a lot of knowledge out there. And I think when the teams get there, I mean, they're building that notebook to try to figure out what this car needs to be able to race it as hard as the drivers need to race them. And if you're a new team coming in, I think you're kind of somewhat at an even playing field. If we talked about a new team coming in last year, competing against our regular superstars in the Cup Series, I say, man, they got a big challenge in front of them. But this year in 2022, with this new race car, I think a new team coming in is really smart and something that's a doable deal to be somewhat competitive.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Dominic, the Blaney family had some exciting news.
The Blaney family sure does. Ryan Blaney will be joining the SRX series alongside his father, Dave Blaney. And guys, it just seems like with the SRX series, we're getting more and more of these NASCAR connections. We found out that Ryan Newman is joining the series a few weeks back too, and Greg Biffle's going full time in 2022, and Michael Waltrip and Bobby Labonte. A lot of NASCAR connections on the SRX side of things.
Yeah. And the case with Ryan and Dave Blaney, it's a one-off for each of them. That final race, it's at their home track where each of them grew up racing over the years. And what a night. I mean, I think, David, SRX is doing a really good job for just their 6 weeks of drawing attention to each race, with making each one special. To end the very last night with Dave and Ryan at their home track. Last year we saw Chase and Bill Elliott on the track together. Things that we would have never seen before in NASCAR. Now we're seeing in SRX.
Well, I think, SRX, the marketing ability and those types of promotions, to see a father and a son, Dave Blaney, a superstar in NASCAR racing for years, now see his son Ryan Blaney racing as a superstar in the Cup Series, NASCAR Cup Series these days, and to bring these two father and son combination into a race like they did last year with Chase Elliott and Bill Elliott. I mean, it's like, man, people are drawn to that. You know what I mean? Something NASCAR can't do. We're not going to bring Bill Elliott in a race with Chase Elliott. I mean, it'd be awesome, but it's not that simple. That process is complicated.
Right.
And SRX has simplified it. And man, I just think, man, this SRX, this new racing series that Ray Abraham and Tony Stewart have put together is phenomenal on the promotion and marketing side. And man, it's driving eyeballs to that television or to that racetrack. And guys, I don't know about you guys, but something special is going on there, and I mean, in the future, you could be seeing SRX competing against NASCAR. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and what I like what they've done, with it just being 6 races over the summer, prime time on CBS, they had good ratings. Now that they didn't give people too much. It wasn't like what we've seen of, in football, when we've had alternate football leagues like the XFL or USFL in the past, whatever it may be. After a while, it's like, okay, I've had enough of this. Bye. Get out of here. SRX gave us just enough to want more in 2022. And maybe next year they expand the schedule a little bit more. But I really like the way that this is promoted and been planned. This has been well thought out, Dominic, of short tracks, 6 races. You're on CBS. The guys that they're bringing in, a lot of credit to Tony Stewart and Ray Abraham for how well thought out that they've been putting this all together.
Well, I think you said it best, Tyler. They've been very strategic, and they're giving the viewer that anticipation. We want more racing. We want to see more, because it's only limited to 12 competitors each week, 6 races across the schedule. I mean, that's enough to just make you say, I want some more of this. And they're marketing this thing correctly. David, I think you're onto something there. Maybe in the not too distant future, we see some more SRX, and it could be a main competitor here in major motorsports. It already is, but even more so.
Well, you think about it, IndyCar has 16, 17 events right now. If SRX went up to 10, just even 4 more, then that's a viable series, right? Right now, it's just, kind of, a sideshow promotion of sorts. But a championship that could mean something if you're running 10 races or something, and it's not that far off. So I love where they're headed with this. And you mentioned some of the names. Ryan Newman just got out of a cup car. Tony Stewart won this last year. He's back. You mentioned, Bobby Labonte. I think Elio Castroneves might be coming back, and Elio won the Indy. He won the Indy 500 last year. I mean, there's some good drivers in this, David.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm paying attention to it, focused on it, because it's intriguing. The racing's incredible. The cars supposedly are prepared by the same organization. Each car is kind of like an IROC car.
Yeah.
All the cars are the same, and they just put drivers in each car. And but man, it's really amazing. And like you guys were saying, I think this thing was just planned out flawlessly. You know what I mean? And the viewers, they're craving for more. I can't wait to see another one of those races. And I think all the viewers and all the fans that have been paying attention to it, it's like, give us more, So it's they just, I mean, I never would have thought that there would have been another series that somewhat could compete with NASCAR. And man, Ray Abraham and Tony Stewart are doing it, and they're doing it in a way where their fans are just can't get enough of it, So it's going to be interesting how this series and how it all plays out in the future. But man, I can't wait for that first race this summer. I'm looking forward to it myself.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they're not running out of Eldora this time. That one surprised me. They mix up the track schedule a bit. So no track advantage there for Tony Stewart. And he claims that he doesn't get into these race cars more than anyone else does. That he tries to keep things even. So should be a lot of fun. SRX coming up this summer. We'll be all over that here on Let's Go Racing. Dominic, anything else on the news and notes front before we move on?
One last thing to mention here. So a tradition that had started in the late 1990s is going to continue after all into 2022. Austin Cindric's Daytona 500 winning number 2 car will be on display at Daytona, USA. The track had announced on Tuesday, March 8th. The car, Roger Penske wanted to make sure the tradition continued on. The 2 cars going to stay there on display, and the plan for the team, according to Penske, was they were going to retire the car anyway for the sentimental value and for what it had gone through in winning that Daytona 500. So they figured, why not? Let's keep the car at Daytona, USA. They had a photo op with it, and Austin Cindric was there on Tuesday in Daytona. The tradition rolls on.
So great tradition, but David, I was thinking about it. I mean, that car was bad fast. I bet Austin would like to get back out in that same car at Talladega here.
No doubt about it. But man, I love Roger Penske. I mean, the tradition of American auto racing, Indianapolis 500, Daytona 500. You know, that car has so much sentimental value to the Penske organization, and I think I totally agree with them. Even though that race car was super fast, it would probably go on and win Talladega, probably go back to Daytona and win again. But I love it that Roger Penske and NASCAR, let's keep these traditions. Let's not forget. Let's follow these traditions. You know what I mean? So I that's news to me, and that's really great music to my ear to hear the tradition is going to continue. That's just the right thing to do. And Tyler, I believe I agree with you, but don't forget about the tradition, you know? So I love it that I'm hearing this news.
Yeah, that's very good news.
Yeah.
To see that, and the fans will get their pictures and their photo ops, and the confetti is still going to be on the car and all that stuff there at Daytona, USA for the next year. Let's go ahead and move on. Our final segment before we wrap up today's show is our Ask David segment. We ask you to submit questions to us on Facebook, facebook.com/David Starr Podcast, Twitter @Starr Podcast, and by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Let's go ahead and go to the inbox now. First email, this one comes from Barry, and Barry wants to know, David, how is inflation and the record high gas prices affecting NASCAR?
Well, man, Barry, that's a great question. And I have to be honest with you. We were talking about it earlier, Tyler. The inflation is off the charts, you know, but I hadn't really seen it affect our sport yet. I believe it will soon. I mean, it has to. You know, we're out here, you know, we've been out on the West Coast in California, Las Vegas, Phoenix, but you know, to fill up these transporters that move these race cars across America, I mean, and what the gas prices are for all Americans, not only just our sport, for every sport and every American out there. I mean, it's hitting our wallet hard. Myself, you, Dominic, all of us, you know. So, but so far in 2022, I hadn't really seen the effects of it in our garage area. It hasn't affected the way the racing is. The fans in the stands are unbelievable. The Sunday's Cup race, all the people that were there, the excitement around it. So I have not seen it affect our sport yet. And you know, I'm just thinking, I've been thinking about that. I said, man, I hope, you know, 2 weeks from now or a month from now, things don't change, you know, but I hadn't seen anything right now. I wanted to hear what y'all's thoughts were.
Well, Dominic, I think of, you know, when the recession hit, you know, in the late 2000s, and it was full on affected NASCAR in every single way possible. And what we're going through right now, it's not great, but it's not what it was then. And I would say that what NASCAR went through back then prepared them for what we're seeing right now, that the financial adjustments that NASCAR has made since that happened back then has more prepared NASCAR to go through this time that we're seeing. I would guess that it's going to affect attendance eventually, that as it will all sports. If we keep seeing rising prices and people can't afford to go to the racetrack or go to a ball game here and there, that eventually will happen if things keep up at this rate. But that's would be my educated guess, I would think, is that what NASCAR went through prepared them for now.
And to add on to that, I think hearing that question that Barry had and just kind of thinking of where everything is in the direction of the sport, I feel like right now, and David, I'm sure you can give more insight on this too. I feel like the teams are feeling this first, and more specifically your hauler drivers, right? You look anywhere in the country, it's $5 for a gallon of gas or diesel. Some places it's even more. So I'm sure that might be affecting on, okay, maybe you would fill up in this town or you'd fill up here. Maybe we got to adjust our fuel stops as we go across the country. And guys, I've seen these haulers are going back and forth on I-40 here on this West Coast swing. Some of these teams are going back and forth from North Carolina to the West Coast every week. So that cost has to certainly be calculated. I feel like that inflation cost is being felt by the teams on the forefront. The firsthand account, my guess, would be at the pump.
Yeah. David, you were around back when that happened, when the recession affected NASCAR. Take us back then. I mean, that was some hard times for the sport.
Man, it was, and it was a challenge for the whole sport and the teams and the fans, everybody, but, we got through it,
Yeah.
and it was rough. It was challenging, but, I'm just sitting here thinking about inflation, and gas prices, and, instead of it costing $50 to fill up your car, now it's 75 or $80, and then, you walk in the grocery store and you go grocery shopping for your family, and instead of being $150, to take care of your family for a couple of weeks, now it's $300, so, you got to think that, that maybe the cost of living is just, when that extra money that all these families and our fans of NASCAR racing have that uses to buy these tickets across at the racetracks, when you start using up extra money, it kind of takes away from, your entertainment, not going to be able to go to this baseball game or an NFL game or an NBA game. And, maybe might not, instead of going to 2 NASCAR races this year, maybe we're only going to get to be able to go to 1, so I don't know. I just hope for the best for the whole country. I know inflation's just off the charts right now. The gas prices, it seems like it goes up 6 or 7 cents every day. I just hope it doesn't really change the whole country. You know what I mean? I hope, I just hope all the sports and the fans for whatever sport you want to go see, I hope that stays where it's at and gets even better. But, common sense tells you that something's got to give eventually, and I just, man, everything's going so good in our industry that we're proud of. The racing's great. The fans are there. We just came out of a pandemic, and, it's awesome to see all the people sitting in the stands and have such a great audience. And to see that kind of, to see something happen again where it takes the fans back out of our racing stadiums across the country, it will just be, it'd be sad, but something's got to give here soon.
Dominic, you mentioned haulers, by the way. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring this up. Terrible news with David Gilliland's ARCA team, as there was a crash and the hauler driver did not survive.
Yeah, Steven Stoss, the driver for the David Gilliland racing team, tragically lost his life Tuesday in a crash en route to Phoenix, actually, for the NASCAR ARCA race. They were filling the 17 car there for Tanner Gray. And I'm sure we're going to get more details as everything comes out. But yes, definitely our thoughts and prayers with the Stotts family and all that have been involved and have been affected by this terrible tragedy.
Yeah, David, just horrible news.
Oh, just sad, man. It's just, I can't imagine what his family's going through, dad, son, husband, father. I mean, just out there making a living and driving a transporter for David Gilliland Racing. We're like all our transporter drivers and that drive all these racing team haulers across the country. They're great people, passionate about auto racing, and it's a job to take care of their families. And, I just, it's hard to even comprehend it. Just my heart's heavy for the family. And it's just, I can't imagine what the family's going through, and the racing team, what they're going through, and just a sad day to get that news, to be honest with you.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah.
Certainly we send our best to the family and to the David Gilliland racing team as they go through this tough time. I got another question in the inbox, and this one comes from James, and it's actually for Dominic. The question from James is, Dominic, as a Packer fan, how do you feel about Aaron Rodgers staying in town?
Well, you guys know I've been vocal about it. I think he's been the problem in Green Bay with all the rifts and the controversies. But at the same time, if he's going to take my team to the NFC Championship game every year, okay, I'm along for the ride for the next 4 years. I don't know about a Super Bowl, but at least NFC Championship and playoff appearances are in the cards. That's what I have to say about that. What do you guys think about Rodgers returning?
So, David, I don't know if you saw the numbers, but it's rumored, not official yet, 4 years, $200 million for him to stay with the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers, he's had a heck of a career, and other than Dominic, Packer fans are pretty happy right now.
Well, I mean, when you think about, I don't know, when I think about NFL and you think about Green Bay Packers, I think about, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, they just kind of go together. I know it's the business of any sport, business of the NFL. But man, it's like when you see these franchise quarterbacks, superstar quarterbacks, that are branded to a city and to a team, it's sad to see that break up. You know what I mean? When I think again,
we just saw Russell Wilson head to the Broncos, leaving Seattle after more than a decade.
That's just hard. I know that's hard on the fans. I don't know. I'm just kind of like, man, it's like you can't take, it's kind of like taking the Green Bay Packers out of Green Bay. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can't take Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know. They go together. You know what I mean? So kind of what my thinking is.
Well, put it back in racing terms, guys. If people had to do it all over again, I don't think Junior Nation would have ever wanted Dale to leave the number 8 Budweiser Chevy.
No.
Even though he went to a better team at Hendrick Motorsports and got to join Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson and all that, Dominic, I mean, if you could rewrite history, Junior would have never left that number 8 Bud car.
Oh, of course not. He would have started his career and finished his career in the number 8, the Budweiser Chevy team. And unfortunately, it was not meant to be. But absolutely, there's just some things you don't break, right? And there's tradition. And I get it. Fans want to see Rodgers finish his career as a Packers fan. And I think we're going to get that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It'll be fun to watch, and we'll be following it. And I'll be following it as close as ever now, covering the NFL full time for Chat Sports here in Dallas. And been here just a couple of days and loving it. And David, glad to be in your home tonight and join this nice fireplace, a little fireside chat here this evening. And we'll be doing more stuff like this here in the future with the folks at home. Before we go, David, a big week for you. Not only you headed to Phoenix, but you also have a corporate racing school event going on at Texas Motor Speedway this week.
Man, we got a cool deal tomorrow. We got 50 servicemen and women that have been injured in combat coming. They're actually parachuting into the Texas Motor Speedway tomorrow morning, and they'll be driving our NASCAR, our Team Texas NASCAR race cars. And I've never participated in this event because I've always been out of town, and it so happens that it's on Wednesday tomorrow, and I'm so excited to see some of these men and women that have fought fiercely for our country and who have given up a limb, and to be able to see the smiles on their face. Man, I've heard from my Uncle Mike tells me a lot, said, man, it'll bring you to tears. And our instructors we have done this for 22 years, and we're doing it again tomorrow. And I can't wait for the day tomorrow to see how this all plays out. But what an honor it's going to be to see these heroes and these people that are sacrificed so much, not only themselves, for their families, to fight for our great country, and to see them come do what us guys love, come drive a NASCAR race car and have a great time doing it. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, and I was at that racing school you guys had for the public a couple of weeks ago, and most of the people you talk to there say this is the biggest thrill they've had in their whole life. And now some of these military guys, I wonder, David, can you push the limits a little more with them since, they've done some dangerous things and stuff? Can you Are they more likely, you think, to go a little faster, or if they're doing a ride along, to want you to go faster or something here? How's that work?
Man, I don't really know, but man, since they who they are and what they've been through, and they're our heroes, I hope they want to go fast, because I love going fast, you know what I mean? So if they want to go fast, more power to them. We're just going to keep everybody safe as possible, like we always do. And man, I hope when they come down pit road, when their 10 laps is over with, they're going to be as happy as I am. And from what I hear from everybody who's participated in the past, there's going to be a lot of tears. So I'm excited to witness this tomorrow.
Dominic, you're back in New Mexico for a hot minute, and then you are off to Phoenix. Tell us what's going on in your world, man.
Yeah, off to Phoenix. I'm really excited. It'll be my, I think, 17th straight NASCAR Cup Series race at Phoenix, but who's keeping track, right? Jonathan Feld and I will be out there to cover all the action for the racingexperts.com. Going to see some good family and friends out there in the Phoenix and Chandler areas. I'm looking forward to that. And man, Tyler, so happy for you out in Dallas. How's your week looking like, the rest of the first week you have out there in Dallas?
So I have not been given liberties to exactly say what is going on Saturday night, but there is a good reason why I'm not in Phoenix. I have, I'll put it this way, a very big game to call on national radio, and I will have those details in the coming days on my Twitter at Tyler Jones Live. We're waiting on some contract stuff to be finalized before I can actually say the matchup in the network officially, but be looking for those. So I'm actually going to be, not making the trip to Phoenix, and I can't say where I'm going because that would give that away too. But I will not be in Phoenix, but I'll be doing this broadcast, and then hope to be at the big racetrack back there very soon. But nonetheless, we all have a lot of stuff going on this weekend. David, going to be a lot of fun.
So Dominic, why does he do this to us? Why does he always hold those secrets in on us?
Because he likes to be mean. He likes to just hold it over and just see like how far we're going to try to pry on it. And Tyler, we will pry for sure. We're going to try to find out what this deal is.
That's what we call a tease in the biz.
Absolutely. So Dominic, let me give you one tease. It was great meeting your brother-in-law this weekend, man. That was pretty cool seeing your brother-in-law and your brother at the race with you this weekend. That was pretty cool, man.
Hey, appreciate that, David. They had a lot of good to say about you.
We had a lot of fun for sure. A good group this week, and friend of the show, John Haverland, was out there with us as well, and had a good weekend in Vegas, and some things we probably won't remember, but from what we can remember, it was a good time.
Tyler,
so
what happens in Vegas
stays in Vegas.
Absolutely.
And on that note, that is a good way to end this week's show, and we will see you guys right back here next week. As always, subscribe to Let's Go Racing with David Starr. New episodes out each and every Wednesday on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, as well as YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review, or don't leave us one at all. Hit that like button. We would love to hear from you there. You can follow us on Twitter at Star Podcast, Facebook.com/David Starr Podcast, and also hit us up on the email inbox, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. For David Starr and Dominic Aragon, I am Tyler Jones saying so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll put the checkered flag out and see you next week.